All right, so now that your HyperStat is wired up, mounted, your cables are nice and clean, you've got your 2-wire run down to the HyperLight in the space and connecting them, both devices are powered or you're about to flip the switch. Now what I want to cover is just what is available for navigation on the Connect module up at the rooftop unit, what is available at the HyperLight down in the space, and then how do we pair this up so that it knows what its configuration is and starts controlling your piece of equipment correctly. So we'll come down here and we'll start with the Connect module. So when you're up at the unit, what you're going to want to note is as you start navigating through, again we're just using up, down, right, left on the buttons here, the first press of the right button gets me to the inputs page. And this is where I can see what is being read on all of the universal inputs that are coming into the device. So if I wired up 3 of the universal inputs, I'm going to expect to see some relatively sane value on those 3 universal inputs. So this is where you check that, make sure your wiring is good, make sure the device is reading appropriately. If I hit right again, it takes me to an outputs page. The outputs page allows me to scroll down to an output that I actually want to modulate. So if I want to modulate my fan speed and hear my VFD ramp up after I try reconfiguring it per se, then I can come in here and just scroll up, give it whatever value I want. If I want to start toggling on my compressors or anything like that to make sure that my thermostat wire is good, that there's no staples run through it after the drywall crew came through, I can do that through here. All right, this will hold for about 10 minutes. If I walk away, if I keep interacting, it'll start the timer over again. Otherwise those values hold for that long or until I leave the screen. So I left the screen, my relays went back to their natural state. The next click of the right button takes me to the version screen. And if I go over one more, there's some communication protocol stuff. But that's mostly relevant if I'm using this as a standalone Connect module, not as a HyperStat Split config. So we're not going to talk about that right now. If I want to get back to my home screen, I just hit the back arrow, the left arrow, until I get there. So that's the Connect module. So you can test everything up on the roof before you go down in the space to check that the HyperLight is powered up and get it paired up. So we're going to switch out here and we're going to move this over. All right, so when we come down to the space, I've taken the corner off of this to make it more obvious, but there is a film on the front of every one of these HyperLights or HyperStats, and it covers the full face of the stat. So if you put your finger there, when you're fully done with the install, you can peel all this film away, and it gives you a much nicer, cleaner look at the end of your install. And there's also a film on the touch slider here too. Some people leave that for a while until it starts to wear out, and it saves the touch slider a little bit longer. Once I come in here, I've got a default screen that's showing me a few things. I've got a slider here that I can adjust up and down my desired temps. And it'll time out here in just a second, go back to the home screen. And I can also change my modes. So the fan mode button is really a fan end mode button. So I can change to auto mode, heat only, cool only directly from the stat. That can be locked out from the stat or in various ways. And then what we're going to do is we're going to enter the installer menu operation by holding the plus and minus buttons for about 4 seconds. And from here, I can also see the inputs coming from this device, so I can make sure all my sensors are reading, that the paint didn't clog something up or something like that. Again, I can go next, and from here I can actually modulate the Connect module. So if I'm down in the space and I forgot to verify that my compressor's kicked on when I toggled it on, I can actually do that from down in the space by going here, selecting, and toggling relays on and off on the Connect module. It's a really nifty feature. Again, you got to back all the way out to go to the next. So we'll go next. It shows me some information about the zone. I'm going to go next. A few things that typically you're never going to touch, and I'm not going to talk too much about. Display options, if you want to change what's available on the display, you can do that from here, but you can also do that during the pairing through the CCU. So most of these things can be done from the CCU, but the one I have to do from here is pair with CCU. So I'm going to go down to pair with CCU. I'm going to select it. Just like all of our other devices, it puts it into an advertising mode. This is a Bluetooth address, so just like when I hold the button on my headset, puts the device in pairing mode, and I'm going to go ahead and pair this with my Airoverse central control unit. So, back on the central control unit, I'm going to go ahead and add a new zone for this HyperStat Split, and I'm going to call it the reception area. So if it's in the reception area, I also want to call it which RTU it's controlling. So I'm going to say it's RTU 15, and we'll call it reception. Again, if you get in that naming convention habit, it'll save you a lot of time on the back end. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hit pair. And again, we're going to select which device we want to pair. We're pairing a HyperStat Split. There's only one major profile for the HyperStat Split right now for conventional package unit with economizer. You can disable the economizer function if you want. And from here, it walks you through the steps to put the HyperLight into pairing mode. One thing I haven't mentioned, I guess, yet is that the HyperLight actually has the 900 megahertz antenna, so the antenna is down in the space. It's not up on the Connect module in the roof. So that makes your communication much more stable. So we'll go ahead and hit pair, and we're going to want to verify that our MAC address is C8. C8 it is. Don't choose connect manually. Connect manually as if I'm trying to swap out devices without pairing. And then what we're going to do is type in the code. 6-digit code verifies I chose the right one, 974701, and I hit pair. And just like that, I've successfully paired with the central control unit. And now what I do is I just select my options. So I can choose if I want to use the occupancy sensor. I can turn on and off my outside air optimization, which is the economizer function. I can scroll down, I can turn on sensor bus options, I can turn on which stages of equipment I'm going to control on the unit. I can change which stages of equipment, or if I want to use a dehumidifier on Relay 5, I can turn it into a dehumidifier using the onboard humidity value from the HyperLight. If I want to do a staged VFD fan on here, linear fan speed would just scale with the load. I want to do it based on a staged fan speed like so. Scroll down, I can turn on some of my universal inputs, or I could reconfigure some of those inputs to be something like a generic alarm from something in the unit. Scroll down, there's more settings for how I control my VFD fan and other things. Again, you'll make yourself familiar with this as you go. But primarily the default options are going to work. Oops, and I enabled my OAO, which means I have to have a mixed air temp, which I had. I have to have my outside air damper, so it was letting me know I have an economizer enabled without my OAO damper. So that's important. That was a good catch by the software. And we hit save, and now it's assigned an address. And the device itself is saying waiting to connect. Once it connects, or it will connect once I dock my tablet. But again, just like all the other devices, I can walk around, I can pair them all before I dock my tablet. Once I dock the tablet, that's when I can expect to start getting zone temperatures and all the data coming from this, and for the HyperStat Split to recognize what type of profile it's actually controlling. So with that, that's your HyperStat Split pairing and configuration.